Oh, for fuck's sake. Yes, it is supported. Eat my dick.
Welcome to Dirt, Sweat, and Gears, the channel with the best audio in all of YouTube. That's right, I am using wired microphone audio on an iPhone because apparently nothing works. So I have to bite the bullet and buy a proper camcorder, which hopefully means that the quality of my videos will get a lot better. Until I do that, we're stuck with this. And I've got a lot of work to do, so I just cannot wait for new hardware to come in to make more videos. I gotta get this work done. So I apologize in advance for the lousy audio, but we're gonna keep moving forward with this car, and it will get better very soon. The first order of business that we're gonna cover with this Miata engine is these lifters. I got new lifters. I ordered them from Treasure Coast Miata out in Florida, and they just arrived, and I couldn't resist. I had to just put them right in. They are brand new. Let me see if I have a box with the name on it. This brand, ITM lifters. So I got the new lifters, and I put the camshafts on. I got them all cinched down. I have everything except for the cam angle sensor back here. I was unable to find the bolts so far. So once I find that, I'll be able to complete this part of the reassembly. I have to do the timing belt next. You may notice that I'm pretty sure that I put the thermostat housing on backwards because I was trying to be clever and put it together on the bench, and I didn't know which way it was supposed to go. So I'm going to have to redo this. Not a big deal. Timing belt's ready to go on. I have to take the harmonic balancer off. And I've got a screwdriver stuck in there because part of the seal down here that goes behind this metal contraption, it was actually, it was sticking out and touching the idler, and I couldn't get it to get in the right position no matter how hard I tried. So I just clipped it off right here, and I'm going to put a little bit of RTV behind it just so that nothing gets in there. Moving on, we have some wiring issues that I'm working out. As you can see here, I've got the fuel injectors all wired in, but before I get into the details of that, I'm going to show you what I had to work with. I'm going to move on to the other side of the same harness, and this is pretty much where I started off. The fuel injectors were not as bad as this. This is really bad. This is stuff you should never do in a car. Like, seriously, never do this to a car. Never do this to a car, ever. This is so bad. This is less bad, and this is pretty much what was going on with the fuel injector harness, but I fixed that. So I'll document what I did on this side so you know what I did on the other side. So I pretty much took all of this off and started over. I re-crimped it using ends that are heat shrink coating, and I'll show you that over here. You see your heat shrink butt connectors. I use these. So when I re-crimped it, I was able to use the heat gun, shrink it down, and it provided a weatherproof seal. So then after I did that, I also extended this length of wire here while I was re-clipping it so that I could have plenty of room to connect to the main harness. And it worked out pretty nicely. I was able to tuck it in kind of inside the assembly for the throttle body. Once I got the weatherproof ends on and I got it re-crimped, I then put just probably a little bit of tape around it, and then I used conduit, and then I closed up the conduit with zip ties, and then wrapped a little bit of tape around the conduit to keep it all closed up, just kind of like what you would see in a normal car. So it's definitely not super professional, elite electrician job, but it is, for one, a whole lot better than it was before, and two, it kind of looks like it belongs this way. So it's kind of nice. So I'm going to do this other side exactly the way I did the fuel injectors. So that's what you have to look forward to, and I'll show you the process as I go. So step one was obviously to remove the old Twisty connections. To their credit, they actually did use a little bit of solder so that they wouldn't just pull right apart, but that's really not saying much because it was soldered on twisted wires that was just wrapped in electrical tape. That's really lousy. So the first thing I did was I had to cut that off and restrip it. I use these just because I had them. I didn't want to buy a new tool just for stripping wires. And then I recrimped them using these connectors. And then I got a new tool for crimping. This is actually quite awesome for crimping because you get a perfect crimp every time, which I just wasn't getting with this old tool. This is a much stronger crimp, and I was able to get really nice solid connections here and a really good bite into the wire, and it's not going to go anywhere. Next up, I'm going to use the heat gun and close this all up. I have to unplug my light because it's all on an extension cord, so I can't record it. All right, I've hit it with the heat gun, and the whole point of it is to just get the shrink wrap tubing to contract around the wires on the edges, and they have like a chemical inside of them too that bonds to the wire to provide a watertight seal. So those aren't going anywhere. They're nice and tight, and they're waterproof. The next thing is going to be to just as an added level of security, I'm just going to put just a little bit of tape around these so that they kind of hold together a little bit better, and then I'm going to put it inside conduit. Here it is, the finished wiring harness. On this connector and on this connector, and I'm not going to do it on this connector because of this tab here. But on these two connectors, you see I put some tape on the ends, and that's just because if they're getting pulled on, like if I'm connecting them or disconnecting them, I kind of wanted to just spread out the stress of being pulled from the wires themselves right here. So that's why I just put a little bit of tape coming up to the connector itself. I just didn't want to put stress on the ends of the wires so that because I don't want to have to repin the thing. I don't have the tools for that. This is for the O2 sensor. I'm leaving this kind of outside of a bundle because I still really would like to repin this in the OEM connector. So I wanted to give myself the option of doing that later on. These three are grounds. It was joined together with this ground. So there were three wires that went into one wire and then connected to this one wire. So I decided to split them up so that I would have the option of finding new ground points for these things. I figure even if they end up sharing a connection, at least I have the option of giving them new ground points just in case. So I split them up. And that's about it. The next thing I'm going to do is find the other sides of these connectors and put them together and try to hide them away all nice and neat. Well, I sort of got the timing belt on. I think I got it all lined up after several rounds of trial and error. And I was going to put the harmonic balancer on so that I could rotate it and then unlock the tensioner. So I came over to my bench and found the harmonic balancer and decided, why don't I clean it up real quick before I put it back on. And then the harmonic balancer fell off the bench, hit the ground right there. You see the little mark right there, and broke it. Usually I break things because I'm impatient, because I'm uncomfortable, but this time wasn't the case. It was just legitimately an accident. So, I guess that puts a damper on my plans for the weekend. I will not be starting this car up because I need to get a harmonic balancer. I may be able to put the rear end of this motor back together and put the valve cover back on. If I can find the bolts for this thing right here. If I can do that, get the valve cover on, get that plugged in, I won't be too disappointed. I also might try to run some of the coolant lines and some of the stuff here, but I really kind of wanted to get the car started before I worry about that, because I still have to get a whole new steering rack, and I can't afford that yet. I need to get the car running first before I cross that bridge. Actually, I feel a lot less bad because I started looking up replacement parts for this harmonic balancer, and it turns out this is a two-piece. This is called the pulley boss, and this is the harmonic, well, the part that connects to the belts. So anyway, I was looking up the pulley boss part of this because that's what broke, and I just happened to have it flipped over, and I realized this thing was broken to begin with. So I actually feel a lot less bad. I needed to replace it all along. I just made it a little more obvious. So thanks, previous owner, for fucking me in yet another creative way. Since this broken crank boss is going to delay progress on starting up this car, I decided to make the most of it. And I did that by taking apart the power steering pump and the AC compressor. You see, I've pulled them off. I still haven't yet cleaned everything up there. I've also installed the coolant hose for that. Unfortunately, I believe that was meant to be my upper radiator hose, but it turned out to be a perfect fit. I still have to put hose clamps on, and I have it in my pocket so that I don't forget to order it in just a little bit. You can see my steering rack is pretty thrashed. You can see the boots are torn, it's leaking all over the place, and it's just a complete mess. This steering rack has got to go. I got to replace it. So I'm probably going to pull that next weekend and start thinking about how I'm going to afford to replace it. The costs just keep racking up on this car. It's insane. But I can clean things. That's nice. The middle timing belt cover is on, and it seems to fit okay. I got a little bit of the gasket kind of falling off there, but it doesn't really seem to affect anything. At least it's not stuck going in inside the contraption. I'm pretty sure it's all done right here. The lower timing belt cover is just trashed. Every one of these holes is split and ruined, and it's just it looks like the harmonic balancer has ground into it. It's just it's not worth trying to reuse. I'm gonna get a new one of those. So in the trash it goes. That's another $40. And while I had the power steering pump out, the power steering pump didn't look like it was leaking, so I just cleaned it up, and really it's easy enough to rebuild, replace later on. So I discovered this interesting little engraving in there. I don't know what that's all about, but it's there. But maybe it was rebuilt at some point. Like I said, it's not leaking, so it's fine to just go back in. The AC compressor, move these water bottles. The AC compressor had almost no oil in it, so when you take these things off, a bunch of oil is supposed to drain out, and that didn't happen. There's a little bit that came out, but hardly any. And this is, you can't hear it, but you can't hear it on the video, but the pulley makes a horrible noise, and I have zero faith that this doesn't leak, that this doesn't work, that this works even at all. So I'm just going to replace it. I'm going to replace it, and the replacement will come with the R134. I think they put PAG oil in it. So I'll have a nice R134 conversion on this too, on the bright side. And I've also pulled out where did I put it? Oh, it's over here. I've also pulled out this unit here. It's totally trashed. It's got to be replaced. And then, of course, the dryer's got to go too if I'm going to replace the compressor. So, yeah, that's a huge expense. But having air conditioning is really nice, and it's really good for the resale value of cars. The lines themselves look to be in okay condition. Probably the valves need to be replaced. And definitely the seals are going to get replaced. A seal kit is actually very cheap, so I think it was like $6. So that was not a big deal. Not a big deal at all. So I got the seal kit. It'll be the green seals, so it'll work with all the refrigerants, I believe. Definitely with R134. And I've still got some grounds to reconnect. I'll do that eventually. I'm not in a huge rush. Once I get the front end put back together and this thing's ready to start, obviously I'm going to have to do that quite urgently. And there's no oil in it. So no oil, no coolant. Well, obviously no coolant, but no oil in it. So I've got to fill those up before I try to start it. And of course there's nothing in the brake reservoir. I haven't decided what I'm going to do with the brakes yet. If I'm going to just replace the pads and the rotors, or if I'm going to upgrade the whole system, I don't know. I might not upgrade because I've spent so much money on this car. I have to do the shocks and springs, and the bushings are pretty trashed. I'm not going to worry about the bushings yet. Again, I haven't decided if I'm going to get control arms with the bushings already installed, or if I'm going to get a polyurethane kit for probably the same amount of money but a lot more frustration, and replace the bushings myself. So there's a lot to do. I've come a long way. I've also test fitted the body panels that I got over here. I test fitted the this thing, not a skid plate, but it's a splash guard. I've also test fitted this plastic air thingy here, and it's all gonna work. It's all gonna line up. There's gonna be a few little things to bend back because obviously this car has this car deserved a better owner, and now it has one. There's a few things I gotta bend back, but that's not that big of a deal. It's all gonna line up just fine when I'm done with it, and this is gonna be a really good looking car. It's gonna look as good as it runs, I hope.